Okay, let's set up your charts for divergence trading. To trade divergence, you will need your basic price chart and a momentum indicator. I use the MACD, however, you can also use the RSI or the stochastics or any other momentum indicator you choose. Next, you will need to make sure your Fibonacci retracements, extensions, and projections are set to the proper settings. For retracements, we use the 38.2%, the 48.6%, also known as the 50%, most people use the 50%, the 61.8%, and the 78.6%. Okay, these are the retracements. For the extensions, we will use the 127.2% and the 161.8%. Now, it's important to remember the difference between the extensions and the expansions, also known as projections. Okay, for the expansions, we will use the 100%, the 127.2%, and the 161.8%. Now, the difference between the extensions and the expansions is the way they're measured on the price chart, and we'll show you that now. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a price chart. Right, so we just have a blank price chart here with no indicators or anything. Okay, just price. Next, we want to go ahead and put a momentum indicator on here. I'm going to go ahead and choose the MACD. Now we have our MACD here at the bottom. Again, you can use stochastics or RSI or another momentum indicator of your choice. Now we have our tool to look for our divergence. For example, we have price moving higher, MACD cycling lower. Okay, so there we see a negative divergence. Right here, we see price moving lower, MACD cycling higher. Okay, we have a bullish divergence. Okay, so now we are able to spot divergences. Now we need the other tools. Okay, the other tools we're going to use are Fibonacci retracements, extensions, and expansions. Now the settings for our retracements are the 38.2%, the 50%, or the 48.6%, which is the actual fib number, the 618, 61.8%, and the 78.6%. Okay, so we want to make sure that we have these specific levels on our Fibonacci retracement tool. And you can see here I don't have the 786, so I'm just going to put that on there now. Now, the most common levels we're going to use are the 50 to 62%. Okay, you'll hear me say that often, the 50 to 62%, that range, and what I'm referring to is the 48.6 to the 61.8. This is so we're able to measure our retracements after we have a divergence. Okay, so here you can see a little example. Price moving higher, MACD cycling lower or making a double top in that case. We'll use our Fibonacci tool to measure this downswing, and you can see we retraced 62% before continuing to the downside. We really don't use the 38% unless we're looking at a higher degree time frame or we're using the stacked limit order entry, which we will cover later on. Now, to set up the extensions, it's the same tool. You're going to use your retracement tool. Okay, and your retracement tool, different platforms are going to do this differently. Okay, but you can see here on mine that I have to put in the extension as a negative number. Okay, so I have 0 minus 0.27. That's the 127% extension. Here I have negative 0.618. Okay, so if I click on these, you'll see the extensions here. Okay, the extensions popped up on this tool. Let me just go ahead and blow this up. Okay, so here's the 127. Here is the 1618. It's important to remember that this is the extension tool. The extension tool only takes into account this swing and extends these fib ratios. Okay, so it only takes into account one swing. Now let's talk about the expansions. Okay, the expansions tool works a little bit differently, and it may be called different things on your platform. So let me just go ahead and delete this. For my platform, it's called a trend-based fib extension. Okay, the trend-based simply means that it's taking into account more than one swing. On eSignal, it was called fib expansion tool, and it's called fib projection tools on some other platforms. The most common, I believe, is fib expansion. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, and if we're going to use our expansion tool for the divergence setups, or to look for targets on the higher degree time frames from the overall patterns we're going to look at, we're going to use the 100%, the 127.2, and the 161.8. Okay, and basically the difference here is, let me make sure I have the right one here. I'm just going to use the extensions right here. For the most part, on our patterns, we're going to target equal legs to 127. Okay, so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the equal legs 127 on here first. I just have different templates. All right, so we use equal legs to 127 for some targets for the cycles. We use the 1618 for what we call an extension. Okay, and when we get a price extension of a single cycle, then we look for the market to continue in that direction for at least another swing. Okay, but these are the main expansions, Fibonacci expansions you're going to use. Okay, so you want to set these up with the equal legs, or 100%, the 127, and the 1618. Okay, and one more time, the way we use these is we click at the top of the swing, the bottom of the swing, and then we also measure the pullback. Okay, so you hear we measure the top to the bottom, we measured the pullback, and basically we're projecting this same swing into the future, and you can see here we hit 100% equal legs, moved right into that equal legs to 127% target before we found support. These are the main tools that we're going to use. Okay, obviously we're also going to use just regular support and resistance, so you just want to be able to draw a line at support or resistance, so you want to have a line tool, things like that. Okay, but that pretty much goes without saying. Okay, but as you can see, we don't use a whole lot as far as indicators go. We're basically using price measurements. We're using the MACD, or your momentum indicator, to spot divergence. Other than that, we're looking at support and resistance, price, and measured support and resistance, which are the fib levels. You'll also want to make sure you have a text tool, so we're able to label the three-wave cycles. Okay, but that's basically it. It's pretty simple stuff. Pretty simple stuff. We don't need a whole lot because we're going to use price action for the most part. We want divergence on the chart or momentum indicator, so we can spot divergence and see that waning momentum, and then we're going to look for that price confirmation to look for trading opportunities.